Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to Filibuster here on the Nerd Party, the podcast network with 31 scoops of nerdy flavours, including Star Wars, Harry Potter, Star Trek, Stark Raving Hazelnuts, Hulka Hulka Burning Fudge, and USS Butterscotch. Our regular co-host Lee is on holiday up at Camp Knowhere, so the Scoop Troop has assembled to discuss Stranger Things 3. I'm Steve Harrington, Dallas King, and with me to revisit Hawkins, Indiana is Kim Morrison. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. So we're taking a trip into the Upside Down to deep dive into the third series, but I just want to get your thoughts on, what were your initial thoughts on the first two series of Stranger Things, and what was your first introduction to it?
I think I came to Stranger Things quite late, actually. I'm sure when it first came out, I didn't even have Netflix, which I'm going to use as the excuse for taking so long to watch it, because it's definitely like kind of horror, sci-fi, 80s theme. It's right up my street, so I don't know why it took me so long. But I managed to watch the first season with like no spoilers or anything, which was quite impressive. I loved the first season. I thought it was amazing. I wasn't sure about the second season. Like, I didn't think it was bad or anything. I just didn't think it was as good as the first season. So I was quite excited to get a new season to watch and see what it was going to be like. And I heard a lot of people before I got the chance to watch it saying that it was better than 2, and a lot of people actually said it was better than 1. They thought it was the best one yet. So I was very excited going into it.
Yeah, no, I sort of fell in love with the first series. I think I sort of found it probably just about when it sort of launched, and sort of loved the 80s nostalgia of it. I think I wasn't too keen on season 2. I thought the story wasn't as strong, and certainly the sort of heroes sort of episode where 11 sort of went off on her own and sort of met all these other sort of superpowered people, it was like a bit like, no, that's not really what I came for. And so I'm glad. I definitely think that season 3 sort of got back to where it was, and I think it potentially is the best season so far. But for anyone who's not seen it yet, season 3, or actually, they're not really even called seasons anymore. They're just called Stranger Things 3. So in this one, we're in the summer of 85 in Hawkins, and the newly opened Starcourt Mall has become the focal point of the town, driving other stores out of business. Chief Jim Hopper is conflicted over Eleven and Mike's budding relationship, while Joyce has considered moving out of Hawkins for better prospects, leaving the state of the children's friendships and her own relationship Hopper in the air. However, strange power fluctuations trigger the Hawkins' awareness of something otherworldly, and Eleven and Max source something that is about to upset the town's residents, and discover that the closed portal to the Upside Down may actually be reopening, and danger is not far away. So, everyone who doesn't seem to like Stranger Things seems to point out the fact that this is basically just an 80s nostalgia trip, and it basically sort of ticks reference after it's just a series of 80s references and not much else. Do you feel that way? Is it a fair criticism? And if it is, was there any particular 80s references which you did like, or in particular?
I wouldn't say it's like a fair assumption to say like that it's just only 80s references, nothing else. I think it's really cool because it's telling this story, this like monster kind of sci-fi horror story, and it's just setting it somewhere else. And I think it's fun. I think they're maybe aware that probably a lot of the fans that would watch it have a sort of like geeky element to themselves. So I think just all the 80s references, and a lot of them are kind of geeky in themselves, it's just quite cool. So I quite liked it. I liked there's a part in the first episode, I think, where they all go to the cinema and they're watching Day of the Dead, and if you've seen that film ever, there's the opening shot where a chick's like looking at a calendar and all these zombie hands come through the wall at her. And I think in the episode there's like a power cut in the cinema, so that you don't get to see that bit right away. And I think you were kind of like, oh, there's a power cut, like what's going on? But also I was like, oh, I really want to see that bit where all the hands come through the wall. So I really enjoy it. I mean, I wasn't alive for a lot of the 80s, but a lot of the stuff that I really like the fact they go and see Back to the Future and stuff in the cinema, a lot of the enjoyable stuff that I like is from the 80s. So I just think it kind of adds a little geekiness and just a fun kind of element to the show. I don't think they completely rely on that at all. I think that it has its own like story and characters and stuff, and it's just a little like fun added element to it.
Yeah, no, I think the characters and the stories is definitely strong enough to merit the setting, and I think they do it really well in terms of the production design, costume design, their use of songs throughout as well. But I think the use of pop culture references and stuff is very good. It's like you say, Day of the Dead, they've got that, but it also makes you think back to Dawn of the Dead, which is the second of the Romero ones, which is set in a shopping mall, and a lot of the horror stuff does happen within the mall. And I did like the how looking back at certain things, you can actually view it with perhaps a more objective eye, and sort of Steve and Robin's sort of not drunken, but sort of high on truth serum drugs discussing the plot of Back to the Future. And yeah, it is actually really quite disturbing and ridiculous when it's about a guy he's trying to have sex with his mom. What? It's like, no, it's not. It is quite crazy. But I mean, there's the little ones that I really like. It's like the sort of lines like when Hopper's getting drunk in the restaurant on his own, and he's like, "Oh, I can do anything I want. I'm chief of police," which is a Jaws reference. And then there's when he's talking to one of the Russian guards, he says, "You can't do that. There are rules for policemen." That's like a Die Hard reference. So it's like there's little extra geeky ones that you can pick up on beyond just like that. Oh, there's cool posters of the Thing and stuff like that all in the background. But I just loved all that kind of stuff, and I think yeah, like you say, I think it's strong enough to survive the fact it's not just nostalgia. Yeah, they've said it, although it's quite disturbing. As someone who was born in 1980 and grew up during the 80s, the fact that this is now vintage is quite bizarre for me, I think. So
Yeah.
So Stranger Things 3 essentially has sort of three main plot lines. The cast is sort of big enough now that you sort of get it split up into plot threads. So you've got Hopper and Joyce sort of teaming up to investigate the magnets situation, where it was like I saw a meme today. I think it was a Winona Ryder sort of screaming down the phone. Season 1, it was like, what have you done with my son? Season 2, what have you done with my son? And then season 3, what have you done to my magnets? And it's like, so they're off investigating the potential Russian influence, trying to reopen the portal, which also introduces us to the wonderful new character of Alexei, and who I thought was a wonderful addition. He doesn't say much, but he loves his cherry sort of Slurpees and stuff like that. And you've got this new sort of romantic element sort of brewing between essentially the only real two adults in the cast. So I guess I can see why they're going down that road, but some people may think it's maybe too soon after Bob for Joyce to be going down that road. What did you make of their relationship in this season?
I mean, I think you kind of felt like it was coming for a while. I think in season 1 there was kind of hints at it. They kind of talked about how they'd like known each other when they were young and stuff. It just seemed to be like fleeting looks and stuff. You kind of maybe thought it was coming, and then I think in season 2, when she obviously had Bob as a boyfriend, I mean, that was lovely and he was amazing, but I think you could kind of sense bits of jealousy from Hopper and stuff. So I think I was really happy that they went down the route, but they didn't really, like they didn't get together in this season, so they didn't spend like the season like having a romantic relationship. It was just kind of the kind of underlying sexual tension, and you kind of wanting them to get together. So I'm not really sure about how soon it was after Bob. I guess everyone's kind of different. I actually don't know how long they kind of went out with each other as well. I'm not sure what that kind of timeline was, but I think I think they've always kind of had this spark going on, so I wasn't mad at it happening, and I kind of wished that they'd got together a bit sooner. I was really sad when she accidentally stood him up in the restaurant. I think you can see that he really really cares for her, so it would be nice if they did get together at some point.
Yeah, no, I think Claire's awful husband in Fleabag, whose character I can't remember the name of, was correct, and just sort of screaming at them in the back of the car, "Why don't you just do it already?" Because the sexual tension was there. But I mean, I guess the real sort of relationship in terms of Hopper, which has grown over the 3 series, is the one with Eleven. And what I really liked was how he's sort of grown into this paternal figure, and the sort of the 3 inches rule of the door and stuff, how he's trying to cope with being this new parent and the fact that hormones are flying around Hawkins and stuff, and Eleven and Mike, or Elle as she's now known kind of in this series, are sort of dating and sort of kissing and stuff like that, and he's trying to keep an eye on it and trying to be the protective father as well as also letting her live her life and stuff like that. What did you think of Mike and Elle's relationship in this one?
I don't know. I thought, like, I don't want to say I was on Hopper's side because he was a bit irrational in some cases, but I just found Mike really annoying when him and Elle were together. And I think I think Max was very much like the voice of reason in the whole thing. She was just like, you know, like, you need to dump him if he's being a bit of an idiot. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think the whole fact that he maybe spent like the whole of season 2 not really sure if she was alive or if she was there, and he was kind of pining for her. I think he's very much just kind of latched onto her. So it was maybe a bit too much. She's kind of, I mean, I'm guessing Hopper really wasn't letting her leave the house much before she went to like the mall with Max, because everyone was making a huge deal. They were like, "You're not supposed to be here. There's too many people." So I think the fact that she was just like trapped in the house with him looking after her, and then with Mike was clearly around like every single day, I think she needed a bit of just to like get out there and experience life a bit. So I think they were cute together, like when they kind of first got together. But yeah, I think he was a bit intense and a bit annoying, and maybe we just needed to give her a bit of space. But yeah, so hopefully that'll kind of chill out a bit the next season if they're. I can't. Did they get back together at the end of the season? I can't remember.
I think they kind of made up, but I think 11 was actually heading off with Joyce and Will in that,
yeah,
so
yeah.
they'd have to do it long distance, I think. But
Yeah.
long distance can work for some of them, because it worked for Dustin and his Canadian girlfriend, who maybe didn't exist. But I mean, what I actually really liked, you picked up on it there, was the friendship between Max and 11, because initially when Max was brought in season 2, it looked like they were going to be enemies, or sort of, so I really like that. That's something we haven't really had in Stranger Things so far, is a female friendship, and I thought they were just fantastic together in that lovely sort of montage of them enjoying the mall and trying on all the outfits and stuff like that. Now that was pure 80s at its headline. So
Yep.
were you a fan of that friendship there?
Yeah, I was, because like you said, there's not been a lot of like female friendships. We kind of had Barb and Nancy in the first series, and then Barb got munched pretty early on, so there wasn't a lot of it. But I did like it because I think Max is obviously shown as quite a like tomboy and a bit of a geek and stuff. It's nice to show that, you know, like tomboy characters aren't completely one dimensional. Like, she did like shopping and hanging out with girls and stuff. She didn't just like skateboard. It proves that you can kind of like do everything. You don't have to be this like stereotype. So yeah, it was nice. And like I said, I think she was good for offering kind of good logical advice to 11, whereas the boys probably weren't giving her that. And it was nice to see them like just having sleepovers and stuff. They felt like they just kind of fell into that friendship really quickly, and it just seemed like really natural and like totally what female friendships were like for me at high school. Like, you were just always constantly staying over at people's houses and stuff, and it was just really nice. So yeah, no, I did like that, taking it away from and not just being a group of teenage boys all the time. It was nice to see a different angle to it.
Yeah, no, it was a nice sort of dynamic between sort of those two and the usual gang, and they're sort of involved in one of the other plot threads, which is the sort of the return of the mind flayer. And this is where, now I'm not, because I was trying to think back to sort of season 1 and season 2 and who it was actually aimed at. If it's aimed at adults who you grew up in the 80s, or if it was actually aimed at a slightly younger audience, like something like Erie, Indiana, or something like that. Because there seems to have been quite a leap forward, certainly in this series, in terms of the body horror. And this was one of the things that I was really looking forward to discussing with you as a fan of horror and stuff like that, what you made of this. Because as it progresses throughout the series, it gets progressively more icky. True, a lot of it is CG, whereas, you know, if it had been set in the 80s, it would have been all sort of practical effects and stuff like that. But what did you make of the body horror aspect of it and the sort of Invasion of the Body Snatchers style storyline that was going along with them?
Yeah, I really liked it. I think I'm trying to think like past to the first couple of seasons. I don't remember a lot of that. I know Barb had a whole like weird like horrible slug kind of situation going on, but a lot of the stuff with like Will and stuff when as like in the second season when he was like possessed or whatever by the mind flayer, it was just a lot of kind of like smoke and stuff. There wasn't anything that like disgusting. You didn't really feel like anyone was kind of in danger, whereas this one they just kind of went like all out. Like Billy gets attacked in that first episode and by this just horrible thing. I mean, there was rats like melting in the first episode as well, which was pretty gross. It reminded me a lot of the remake of The Blob. Just all these like horrible chunks of stuff just like melting into each other and everything. It was really gross. And I think what I liked as well is that they weren't afraid to just kill a load of people. Like I don't remember that many people. Like there's kind of I don't remember there ever being like kind of mass kind of death before in Stranger Things. There was always been like a couple of characters that had died, but like when people get possessed by the mind flayer or whatever, and like when he kind of decides that he's ready for them, they just all melted into this big pile of mush and just like joined him like the creature out of Slither, where it was just like everyone melted into this one giant monster. Yeah, no, I thought it was really, like you said, I was very aware that it was CG, especially bits with like the rats exploding and the stuff kind of melting in each other. I mean, I imagine it's probably quite difficult to do that practically, but I think it would have looked cooler if it just looked a bit realer. I don't know, but I was impressed with how, like you said, how dark it was and how gross. And I was really shocked when so many people kind of died at once. I mean, none of them were really main characters. I don't remember if anyone had actually been in another series before that, but it was still just like, whoa, okay, fair enough. I really enjoyed it. I my level for gore and disgusting is quite low, but that was a good level for me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've Slither written down as one of the sort of touchstones, even though that was sort of filmed in around, I think it was 2005. But I mean, I think James Gunn was clearly a fan of sort of Cronenberg. I think you've got like Rabid and stuff like that. But the way that, like you say, they all sort of melted down into goo and then sort of joined into the one thing was reminiscent of the final creature, or even one of these films which I remember seeing at far too young an age and only ever seeing like the end of it. I'm still not sure if I've ever seen the full film, but that was Society. Have you ever seen that one? Yeah, that is a really messed up film.
I actually watched it for the first time recently.
Yeah, it's just like, I couldn't believe, I don't think I've ever seen the beginning of it, so then only seeing the end of it when sort of everyone in this rich sort of society joins in together and then people's faces come out of people's butts, and it's just like really sort of disgusting. And that was one which was done with all practical effects, which was insane to sort of see at the time. But yeah, I mean, all these sort of minor tiny characters, but I love it at the end. It's like, if this was sort of aimed at sort of a children's thing or was slightly more on the fantastical element, you would have like, everyone turned out to be fine, when the mind flayer was destroyed, they'd all sort of come back to life. But I'm pretty sure at the end of the series, like in one of the news reports or something, they do say like 30 odd people died. And it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, so they're actually going with that all these people died. And it's like, how are they going to cope with the fact that, well, I mean, the editor of the newspaper is gone and stuff like that as well. So, I mean, there's like a huge hole in Hawkins based on the fact that I was just wondering what people are going to talk about. Is like, oh yeah, my aunt turned into a big pile of goo or something like that. It was crazy. But yeah, no, it was really quite a step up. But I was impressed that they went with it. And, the lead character in that sort of storyline was probably Billy, who I think was brought in season 2 and probably didn't have much to do. So I think it was nice that they sort of made him sort of an antagonist. And, what did you think of his end when it came around in the final sort of episode? Do you think he sort of managed to redeem himself and sort of earn a hero's sort of death at the end for Max as well?
Yeah, I think, like you said, in season 2, he just kind of came in to be a bit horrible to everyone. Really, he didn't do a lot apart from something for the mums to look at, and then was just a bit nasty to everyone. But yeah, I do think it was I'm always sad when people die, and I kind of wish, even though he was nothing but horrible when he was being normal. I kind of wish he hadn't, but it was just no, I think it was good because I think we got through like Elle going into his head and stuff. We got a bit of insight into kind of why. I mean, we knew his dad was kind of violent and abusive from the last season, but it was kind of nice to get a bit of insight into like why he kind of was the way he was and why he was kind of struggling with stuff. And he was obviously like Will in the last season, kind of going in and out of being possessed or whatever, and was quite aware of the horrible things that he was doing as a person. And yeah, to save Max as well at the end from getting munched. So no, I think it was good. It was I mean, if everyone else had just done what they were trying to do in the background in the different storylines quicker, then he might not have had to step in and sacrifice himself. But no, I think it was good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I also think like what would have happened if he'd survived? Like, would he been able to cope with the guilt of everything he'd done anyway? It probably wouldn't have been a very nice storyline for his character. So I guess it made the most sense. But yeah, it was sad. It was a shame, but it was nice to get a bit more insight into him as a character through his past. And stuff.
No, I thought that was a nice way of sort of getting to grow the character, and I think that sort of emotional connection sort of really managed to sort of, it helps with the payoff of his turn at the end and in his sacrifice there, because that's sort of the final episode was when all the sort of the three sort of storylines all sort of dovetail together. And my personal favorite one was the Scoop Troop, with their sort of Red Dawn style Russian invasion of the mall, which, you know, they built this mall which just happens to have a secret Russian military base, you know, 20 odd floors down in an elevator, because of course planning permission never brought that up, you know, when they built it. So this is a storyline that has Steve the Hare Harrington now working in a shopping mall ice cream parlor, with the new character of Robin, and that Dustin, who comes back from summer camp, is been away for so long, well, probably like a month, but for some reason that means he kind of gets excluded from his mates, who are also shunning Will now because they don't want to play D&D because they've discovered girls. Although Dungeons and Dragons seems to be making a comeback, you know, with people like Vin Diesel and Critical Role and stuff like that playing it. So D&D's cool again. So Will, all you have to do is wait 30 odd years and then you'll be fine to play it again. But so Dustin joins them to help sort of discover what's going on. And one of my other favourite characters, one of the breakout ones from season 2, was Erica, Lucas's younger sister, who gets, you know, one of the best lines of the entire series, which is "You can't spell America without Erica," which I just thought, she's just complete sass, and I just loved her addition to that particular group. I thought the four of them together were just fantastic. So that was my particular favourite storyline. What were your thoughts on that plot thread?
No, I did like it because I really liked Robin as a character. I also just like Steve, because I guess I mean, he totally redeemed himself last season, but yeah, in the first season you weren't sure if he was a bit of a douchebag or not, so it's just nice to see him being fun and nice and like having a good time with it. I get really stressed out though by like military storylines, like and storylines where people are like sneaking about a lot. So I did really enjoy their plot, and I liked the character group and everything together. I thought their chemistry was really good and they were really funny, but I was always very stressed when they were on screen, especially when they ended up down in the base. I was like, oh my god, this is the worst. And yeah, especially when like Steve and Robin kind of got captured by the Russians and you weren't sure what was going to happen to them. So no, I thought it was good, and I thought it was a bit different, I guess, because they didn't really, I mean, nobody really came face to face with a lot of monsters until like the end when the massive mind flayer thing showed up. But it was nice to sort of, yeah, just have a storyline that was a bit different and not have like monsters constantly attacking people. It was more about them kind of figuring out what was going on, and like they're like, you knew their part of the puzzle was going to be important to the other two storylines when they all kind of hooked up together and everyone shared their knowledge. So no, I did like it, but I was very stressed the entire time.
Yeah, no, I mean, Steve's character has gone on a huge sort of journey, because I think initially, like you say, in the first season he was the typical 80s douchebag, when then that role in the second series was filled by Billy, because I think the Duffer Brothers who create the show basically admitted that Joe Keery's performance basically turned them around to him as an actor and as a character, and then that's why they sort of gave him this sort of protective fatherly role to some of the boys in the second series, and then he sort of becomes the team leader in this one. And I just thought he was great, and I love the relationship with Robin, and then the fact that he basically admits while still in the truth serum that he really likes her, and then she admits that she likes him, but not in that way. She actually liked someone else, and when he realizes that she's actually sort of gay herself, that what was really nice was just how sort of supportive he was. He wasn't like hurt and rejected by it. He was actually supportive of her, and I thought that was something really quite nice and actually quite progressive for, maybe not for a show made today, but certainly in the 80s and stuff like that, you probably wouldn't have seen much of that. So I thought that was quite good as well in terms of representation. And I mean, there was also a slight hint that maybe Will might have been gay or something. Mike seemed to indicate with one particular line that there was potentially a plot thread that could have gone that way as well. But what did you make of the character of Robin? Because I thought she was fantastic, and it wasn't until after I'd finished the entire series that I'd actually realised that Maya Hawke was actually Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke's Maya Hawke, and now I can't unsee the fact that she is basically the spitting image of her mum, and to the point where I want a Kill Bill Volume 3 where she plays the daughter of Beatrix Kiddo, and then basically has to avenge her mother's death after Vivica Fox's daughter, played by Zendaya, who I would like in that film, kills her mother. So I would love to see that. But what did you make of her as a newcomer to the series?
No, I really liked her. I thought she was like a good addition. Like, again, quite like Max, like last season, she just didn't take any of the like Steve shit. Like, she wasn't she didn't like bow down to him just because he was like this popular guy in school and stuff. She was really sassy and she was really clever. Like, it was her that cracked the code and things, and she was really just like confident. She was just like, no, my translations are perfect, don't even bother. And she wasn't like too bothered about being like nerdy. She like played in the band at school, and she works at an ice cream parlor where she has to dress like a sailor. Saying that as if I don't want an exact copy of that dress that she was wearing, because it was amazing, even though it was a employee uniform.
I think it will definitely be the number one Halloween costume. There'll be a lot of scoop troops out there, along with Fat Lebowski Thor. I think will be the big looks this Halloween, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I want more, the Scoop Troop dress or Eleven's like 80s jumpsuit. It's kind of a tie between the two. But no, I really liked her. I like that they had, because I mean, it obviously started off as a series about like this group of 4 geeky guys, and 11 was kind of this thing chucked in the middle of it. It's nice that they keep adding more like women to the cast, and they never feel like a kind of token addition. It was nice to have her in that group, in that dynamic with Steve and Dustin, which is just a bit more fun, a bit less serious than all the Mind Flayer stuff. So no, yeah, I really liked her. Again, I'd be excited to see what happens if she's in the next season as well.
Yeah, no, because I guess that sort of brings us to what's next. So I mean, the series, I mean, everyone seemed to, well, nearly everyone made it out okay. Hawkins, the town is still there. The mall is probably not being used. There might be potential to explore the mayor plot again, because they brought in Carrie Elways from Princess Bride in as a mayor, and further proof that you just cannot trust mayors in these kind of things, because he was basically very similar to the mayor in Jaws, who... And now this is why it's important to vote, people, because the mayor in Jaws, who kept the beaches open and caused many more people to die by sharks, was still the mayor of Amity Island in Jaws 2. So always remember to exercise your right to vote and vote these people out if they're not doing a good job. So we might get a bit of that. Steve and Robin are now working at the video store, which is, I'm very jealous, because that was my dream job as sort of growing up. I really wanted to work in like a Blockbuster video or something. It seemed like the coolest thing to do, even though it probably, on a day-to-day basis was probably quite dull, but it always seemed like a glamorous job. You get to talk about movies and watch movies all day. But I guess the main sort of point is, Joyce and that have decided to leave Hawkins, so it could I guess the series could expand beyond this particular town. And then there's, of course, the question of, spoiler warning, what happened to Hopper, because it seemed like he got vaporized at the end, causing sort of probably a million people sort of screaming at their Netflix screens, going, "No, they can't do this after Bob last season to take out Hopper as well," and then to give us that really sort of heart-wrenching, emotional sort of voiceover speech as he sort of reads the letter of what he was going to say to Mike and Elle and stuff like that. It nearly broke me. I was just like, no, they can't be doing this. And then, of course, they tease us right at the end because, again, this is, I'm not sure if everyone does this with Netflix shows, but you have to stay watching right to the end to get a post-credits scene where there's apparently an American in a cell who is still in the cell and doesn't get fed to a Demogorgon. So do you think that American is Hopper, or is there somebody else out there that they could be referring to?
I think you've got to hope it's him, eh? I feel like, I don't know, there was no... I immediately Googled it like the minute it happened. I was like, no, I don't believe it. I'm looking this up. I don't think the episode was even finished. And I was like frantically Googling it. And people were saying things like there was no pile of like horrible goo stuff where he was standing. Like he wasn't standing there right as the final shot. Like there's loads of things. I think you have to believe that it's him. I think that would make a good storyline for the next season. And obviously, I mean, I assume they would actually, whatever that prison base was or whatever, if they find out Hopper's there and they need to go and rescue him, like obviously that would make a good storyline as well. So I feel like it'd be so cruel to do that to Joyce twice, and also to like, so they kind of set up the finale of their love story right before he apparently died. I feel like that's just too mean, and I think killing him and Billy within about 5 minutes of each other in a series just seems like a bit too much. So I feel like I have faith in the fact that it is him, and that will be like the kind of catalyst for the next season, and will maybe be what brings like Elle and everyone kind of back in together to go and rescue him, or just go and defeat the Demodogs or whatever else is going on in that prison. It doesn't look good.
I think we have to assume that it goes along the standard sort of sci-fi route of, if you don't see a body, then they're not really dead, and we didn't see a body. So I think that's good. So would you like to see the sort of series sort of expanded beyond Hawkins? And I think maybe the upside down side of things, they've maybe sort of run the course with that. And I think I would like to see them explore maybe a different sort of angle, maybe different monsters or something above, or like you say, maybe sort of going somewhere else, like to the Russian base, or just expanding the universe maybe and bringing in something else mystical or fantastical.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't really sure what they were going to do with this season before I watched it. I was kind of like, it's going to be the same monsters again. Like, how are they going to make it different? And I mean, to give credit to them, they did. Doing the whole, like, Invasion of the Body Snatchers style thing was a really cool way to do it. And I feel like you kind of get a bit, like, saturated with the kind of visions of the Stranger Things monsters. There's a lot of monsters that appear now in other things, and people are just like, oh, that looks like the Stranger Things monster. And I feel like if we'd had that, like, solid for another season, it might have been a bit rubbish. So I really liked the way that they did it. It was the same monster in the same world, but it was a different, like, delivery method, and I really liked that. But yeah, I'm not really... I would like to... I don't know how they would expand it if they're... I mean, it's kind of all obviously focused on this gate like goes through or whatever. Yeah, it would be cool if maybe they opened it some other way and it went somewhere else and there was other like horrible things in there. So yeah, no, I think you're right. I do want to see more, but yeah, it's getting a bit boring. I want it to be like Buffy. I want them to have like a different big bad to fight like every season. I don't want it to be the same thing all the time, or I think it'll just get a bit boring.
I was actually just thinking of Buffy there as well, because Buffy and Sunnydale's basically, they live on the Hellmouth and there's always bad stuff coming up, but they then sort of went with a slightly different aspect by sort of having the Angel sort of series set in Los Angeles and stuff, so they had a different element of that, and would occasionally have Buffy and other characters sort of pop up and stuff like that. So I think they could, by taking it out of Hawkins, I think they could open it up, and like you say, I'm sure the gate or portal could potentially open up something else and bring us a different kind of monster or something to explore. So I would like to see that. But do you think we'll get season 4 soon, or do you think it's going to be a while off? Because it's certainly noticeable in this series compared to season 2. The cast, since they are sort of teenagers, they are getting older and older more quickly.
Yeah.
So do you think they're going to have to record the next season quite soon to capture before they all have another growth spurt and look like adults before they're still meant to be teenagers, sort of looking at, or will we have to sort of jump to the 90s because they look so old?
Yeah, I didn't. Apart from Finn Wolfhard, who looks like a grown man, he just looks completely different. I don't know what's going on with him. I didn't really think any of the other kids looked that old until they showed us a flashback of them, like in the first season playing D&D, and I was like, oh my god, they are literal children in that episode. That's ridiculous. So yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be quite cool if they did like a time jump, just to let them actually like age naturally a bit, because it was a wee bit of a wait between season 2 and 3, wasn't it? It was a bit longer than between 1 and 2. So I guess you don't want them to rush it. You don't want, if it's like a good story and have good effects and stuff, you don't want them to just like keep rushing it out. So maybe a time jump would make the most sense. I heard that when the kids are appearing in the part 2 of It, they're actually like reverse aging them to make them look younger, and obviously Finn will pass in that as well. So yeah, unless they're going to do that for every episode of Stranger Things, it might be a good idea, and I would quite like to see it in the 90s. Obviously that would be quite a big time jump, because what was this, 84, so it'd be like 6 years. But yeah, I think it would be it'd be quite cool to see them maybe just a bit older. I don't think I think now that they've kind of had that time of like discovering girls and realizing they don't always play D&D and kind of separating as friendship, I don't think it's as important to have them as like a group of kind of young teenagers. I think they've especially if they split up in locations and stuff, I think it would be fine to have them a little bit older and still kind of coming together to fight the like common evil.
If they said it in the early 90s, then it would stop everyone complaining about all the 80s references. We just get a whole bunch of new references where they'd be discovering mini discs and DVDs and Nirvana and stuff like that. I've just heard this amazing new band. They're called Nirvana, and it's just like everyone goes, "Oh wow!" So yeah, I've only really got one more thing written down that I wanted to talk about, and that was possibly one of my favourite moments of the series, and what caused an earworm to be stuck in my head for about 2 weeks, and that was the musical moment where they sing the Never Ending Story theme tune. Were you familiar with that song going into this series, and has it stayed in your head as long as it has in mine? Or?
I was, yeah, because I used to watch the Never Ending Story a lot as a kid. It is stuck in my head, but I keep getting it confused with other like 80s songs. It makes up this like weird medley in my head when I start, which is even more annoying, to be fair. I think that was the only spoiler that I got, because I only watched the season like this week, so it's been out for a wee while. And I feel like I managed to avoid any spoilers as to what happened, who died, but every single person I follow on Twitter had posted something about that never-ending story. So there was no like, oh, I wondered if Dustin's girlfriend's real. I was like, I know she's real, and she's going to sing bloody never-ending story with him in the last episode, because everybody's posted about it. I thought it was like a nice relief kind of moment in the last episode. It was very tense, and it was quite funny watching just like Hopper and Joyce just like with their heads against the wall, like, oh my god, I can't believe we're having to listen to this so we don't die. No, I thought it was good, and yeah, that's got to be like an ultimate 80s reference there. I wouldn't be surprised if that song is like gone through the streaming charts. I bet you everyone's listening to it.
Oh yeah, no, it's probably entered the UK and US charts by now, hasn't it? Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's the fact that it starts off, but then does that sort of Team America vomiting scene thing where it starts off funny and then it goes on and you think, oh, okay, it's going on. And then it goes on to the point where it's funny again because, oh, right, they're actually going to pretty much do the whole entire song. Yeah. And everyone's just going, we need to save the world here. We're all going to die if you don't hurry up. And it's just like, yeah, I love that. Although I remember as a kid just thinking that surely somebody sued the makers of Neverending Story because the film ended. You know, the story didn't end. It's, you know, it's Trade's Description Act. So, yeah, I mean, But yeah, that's just a minor point. But there's another one that sort of traumatized people's childhoods with the the
Yeah.
horse in the swamp. It just never got over that one. Yeah.
That is a terrifying film. That's up there with like Dark Crystal for films that traumatized me as a child. So yeah.
Well, that's definitely probably has to be a future episode, because of the Netflix have actually got the Dark Crystal series coming soon,
Yes.
which I'm really looking forward to. And
Yeah, me too.
it seems there's going to be some CG, but a lot of it will be old practical effects. So I am looking forward to that, because
Yep.
the Skelligs or whatever they were called, they definitely scared me as a kid as well.
Yeah, the
So-
Skeksis, they gave me the absolute fear when I was a kid. Like, I don't know why I kept watching it. I watched it all the time as well, and it just probably explains why I like horror films now. I just powered through the fear, but yeah, no, that would be cool.
Yeah, no, I think the most terrifying thing I remember seeing as a kid was not even from a horror film. It was Superman 3, when the woman got sucked into the evil computer machine and then came out as a robot. It's like, for me, for some reason, bizarrely, it just really freaked me out. And it's not even from a horror film. Bizarre. So yeah. So we've come to the point of the episode where we talk about our 52 films by women choices, where every week we select a couple of films that have been directed by women. So we're going to stay on brand with the 80s, and we've both picked an 80s film. So what have you picked for us this week?
I picked Desperately Seeking Susan, which came out in 1985 and is directed by Susan Seidelman. It's got Rosanna Arquette and Madonna in it. It's a really weird like storyline where somebody's posting in the personal ads that they're desperately seeking Susan, who is Madonna, and she's this cool like she's just peak Madonna in the 80s basically fashion, like drifter woman who Rosanna Arquette's character is like obsessed with, and she goes to like try and find her, ends up getting like amnesia, kind of takes over her life, and then Madonna ends up with Rosanna Arquette's husband. It's really strange, but there's a lot of good music in it, and there's a lot of good fashion in it. So yeah, I thought tying it back into how good the clothes were in Stranger Things, it's worth watching it for the amazing Madonna 80s fashion alone. But it's good fun as well.
Absolutely. And I've gone with Near Dark by Catherine Bigelow. And this was one of two huge vampire films. Well, I say huge vampire films. This one wasn't as huge as The Lost Boys, which was also out in 1987. Most people remember The Lost Boys, and the one thing I always remember at The Lost Boys is the naked, greased-up saxophone player on the beach. That's the instant if someone says Lost Boys, that's the image that I think of. But Near Dark is a much more violent, gritty horror vampire film that starred Catherine Bigelow then was the sort of wife of James Cameron, and it stars James Cameron stalwarts Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton, Jeanette Goldstein, who are all in Aliens as part of a group of drifter sort of vampires on the road. And as always, a young boy sort of meets the young, attractive female vampire and then becomes a vampire himself. And it's about how his struggles of fitting in with this group and not wanting to be a killer and stuff like that. But it's a great sort of vampire film and really sort of dark or urban sort of one. So it's that's my recommendation of the week. And we'll be back next week to hopefully talk about Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But until then, it's time for us to head back to the Upside Down for a game of D&D and also to sing the never-ending story theme, never-endingly probably, and grab a couple of scoops of ice cream as well. So we'll see you next week. But until then, cheers. Bye-bye.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd Party.